Good morning. I know, what are we gonna do? 2 videos in a row, 3 videos in 1 week. How often does that happen? You're gonna have breakfast with me this morning. So I awoke to an interesting statement. I won't read you the whole thing, but we will say it includes small fortune in the passage. Small fortune. So I thought I would talk a little bit about why a hat or a bonnet costs what it does. Kind of take you through some of the layers of what goes into a historically accurate piece, and hopefully that will help you understand kind of the pricing that goes on, whether it's my pricing or another milliner's pricing. Okay. So first for breakfast, early rose, cream of wheat. All right, so my cream of wheat, I put chocolate in it. Yeah. I'm a grown-up. I eat chocolate for breakfast. All right, it helps. So, okay, let's talk materials. The materials that actually go into a millinery piece, a straw millinery piece, aren't that expensive, all right? So we're talking about hanks of straw, and sometimes they're natural, like this. We've got colors. You've seen a lot of the different colors that I use. A hank of straw will range between $25, and some of them are actually up around $40 at this point per hank. You can generally get maybe 2 pieces out of a hank of straw, and then there's shipping. So if you ship, what did I just do, 4 together, it comes out to like $20, give or take, depending on how they're doing their shipping. I'm not in charge of figuring out their shipping. I am happy they supply me with my straw, especially through the pandemic. Which I'll note, through the pandemic, through actual lockdown here in the US, it was very hard last year to get natural straw. That's why you saw so many color straws. The natural straw just was not coming into the US from Italy and from China. It wasn't getting made, it wasn't getting shipped in. So that was very hard. My main straw supplier was finally able to get some, and now I can get some. All right, so straw doesn't cost a whole lot. Every bonnet or hat is going to get wired. No, I'm going to say almost every bonnet and hat. There are a couple that I don't like to wire because I don't want the wire right close to your head. So the brimless pieces, I do not wire as often. I think it's more comfortable. I think the only real reason. I don't wire the doll ones as much. If I do wire doll bonnets, it's with a lighter weight wire. You good? What you doing? Yeah? You're telling them about your part? What's your part? Is your part time management? You tell me to take breaks. She tells me to take my breaks. I'm really bad at taking breaks. So yeah, wire. I wire the hats and wire the bonnets. A big old spool costs roughly about the same amount as a hank of straw. And that lasts a while. I go through probably a couple of those a year. Then comes sizing. There's a few different ingredients in my sizing. Nope, I'm not telling you what that is. I mixed together a couple different things. Hey, seems to work. My hat survives the ocean. Yes, there's an entire story behind that. If the person who had the ocean hat has the ocean hat wants to share their story, they are welcome to. All right, so into each piece, straw, wire, and sizing. Not much, huh? Okay, so where it comes in is time. So Most of the hats that I make are roughly 10 hours of hand sewing, okay? 10 hours straight through damp or wet straw, all sewing by hand. Oh, I forgot thread and needles. Goodness, where are my needle packs? I must have moved them. So I probably go through a dozen packs of needles a year. It seems like a lot. I snap them sometimes. I am known to snap. I don't want to say a dozen, half dozen, a bunch. I go through a bunch. Some I like, some I don't like. I'm really particular about how my needles feel. And you can't always get the exact ones you had before. You can't always remember the exact ones you had before. But anyway, shops open, shops close. Actually had a little more consistency this year because I ordered them online. I feel bad about that, but I did. I did get some from my local shop. But anyway, needles. I digress. Wonder clips. Wonder clips are this lovely modern thing that I enjoy using for wiring, especially for wiring bonnets. Good Wonder clips. Oh, I think that pack's like somewhere in the ballpark of $10 from the quilt shop. Yes, I can order a set from Amazon. They'll be cheaper. I support my local quilt shop. So there's odds and ends like that too. Back to time. So about 10 hours of hand sewing for a hat. A little longer for a bonnet. In each case, I do sew a while, block, sew a while, block. So that brings us to the cost of blocks. I have original blocks that I study from. I have antique blocks that I use, and I have blocks that I've made myself that I use. I also have blocks that were made for me that I use. I have hand-turned blocks that I use that I really like. I can't even begin to tell you the price range of some of those. Like I think I've paid as low as around $50 for a study block. That's a block that purely sits in the collection, to twice that. There are some millinery blocks for use out there that just sit around $150 a piece. Good wooden blocks. Luckily, I don't need the really, really fancy blocks. There are some amazing pieces out there. There's some gorgeous puzzle blocks. When you get into puzzle blocks, you're talking hundreds of dollars. I won't tell you what I pay for handmade blocks because I don't want to upset anybody else that also makes handmade blocks that makes more or less. The blocks that I made, I was actually kind of disappointed with how much it turned out to cost by the time I was done, because I used plaster and the sheets of plaster, and it added up really quickly. So I think the first two ended up breaking the $50 point to make them. For a while I was trying to carve some in foam. They don't last. The straw's too much for them. So let's see, what do we have? We have all of the materials. We have 10 hours of hand sewing. It's another, I'm gonna estimate half hour to hour of blocking. And then there's wiring. The sizing, the blocks, and then of course there's research time, which you can't really calculate research time. Research takes so much time over the years. For me, that is studying original pieces in order to understand the techniques, which can require going to specific museums that have the originals or acquiring your own. And then, because I'm also interested in the interpretive end of this, I look at, goodness, I have a thing for like tariff tables. I enjoy tariff tables and seeing how many pieces get shipped in. This is true for the millinery, but it's also true for shawls and things like that. I like to see like what gets shipped where, how much do we make locally, how much do we import from Italy and England. I find those things fascinating. And then the various articles written in the era about straw plating and the straw industry, the rules that you're not supposed to keep your straw wet. Well, guess what? You gotta keep the straw damp. It doesn't want to move otherwise. And then all the dyeing techniques and things like that. So when I say there's hours, we're talking thousands of hours, okay? Not just hundreds, but at this point it's thousands of hours that's gone into the research. And then development of different shapes. Because sometimes, you know, you work on a piece, it doesn't work out, but you learn a bunch. Yeah. And then there's all the time that goes into developing the impression part for supporting the millinery. So when I go out to a historic site, having the right attire, having the right interpretive pieces. So interpretive pieces are going to range from original straw splitters. I'm hoping to get some reproduction straw splitters. And then like the dyes and things that I just started getting for the tools of the trade component. What am I missing? Oh, I guess we got to go on to the decorating part, don't we? All right, so most of you know I offer just the straw hat or just the straw bonnet unfinished. So that's up through the wired and bound part. So for a hat, that's, you know, 10, 11 hours of hand sewing and blocking. For a bonnet, you're probably talking 12 to 14 hours of sewing and blocking. For a larger piece, you're talking more like 15, maybe even 20 hours. When you're talking some of the larger, like 1820s, 1830s pieces, they take a while. So that gives you an idea how we come to the base prices that you're seeing. Yeah, I think that covers that. All right, decorating. So I don't keep a big stash of decorating things. I have a few pieces. I have a lot of ribbon, but a lot of that is for display for when I set up at the museum. I will not use an antique ribbon that is fragile. I know that disappoints some people. I just hate the idea of spending the time putting ribbon onto something, having somebody fall in love with it, and then not having the ribbon last more than 1 or 2 times of being worn. That's awfully disappointing. I myself put some antique black ribbon on a winter hood once, and I wore it once, and just in tying it in a bow, it shattered, and that was lesson learned. That was the last time I did that. It was a good lesson learned. So all the older vintage and antique ribbon is for display. Nice research stuff too, but mostly for display. Okay, so let's walk through the cost of, let's go with decorating a hat first. So your average narrower ribbon, you're probably going to need 2 yards for a hat. That's going to run for a nice quality silk. It's going to be about $6 to $8 for a basic, like 1-inch silk ribbon. If you're going a little wider, you might be talking maybe $10 for an 1.5 inch good silk ribbon. You need ribbon or some sort of lining for the inside and ties. It's going to be $3 to $5 to line it and put on some ties. And then let's talk flowers. Flowers, I'm really particular on my flowers. I have some specific vendors that I like to purchase from because I know what's coming. I know I'm not going to have plastic parts. I know their quality. I know they're going to be shipped well. A stem, if I can find a stem, so like a flower or two and some leaves for $3, I'm ecstatic. But it's gonna land between 5 and 10 a stem. And each hat probably wants at least 3 stems, sometimes more like 5. So if we go on the low end, 3 stems at $5 is $15. On the high end, we'll go 10 times 5 stems, that's $50. So you could be spending $15 to $50 just on the florals for a hat. If you want to go into feathers, oh goodness, so there's a whole nother realm of thought here. Feathers need to be purchased from ethical vendors. If they are vintage, you need to be able to know that they are kept well, they don't have an insect problem, they don't have a sun problem, that they're intact, that they don't have spots through them from insects eating them. You need to know that they're not going to be too dried out. If they are new feathers, you need to know that they are from birds that were treated well and not harvested by killing or other methods. So I'm weird about being careful there. No, I'm not weird. I am just following my own rules. I do have friends that donate or sell their feathers. So some of the feathers, I know the birds' names, which is kind of nice. So the cost there, it really ranges too much. Like some birds give their feathers, and they really are the feathers that fall off in the cage or the farmyard. And all right, so like Merlin's feathers, they're gonna be on my hat. So I guess I don't want to count those towards the cost of a piece. Those are particular and special. So let's talk about the cost of the vintage ones. It kind of comes down to somewhere around the ballpark of $5 to $10 a plume. So we'll say $5 to $10 on a hat. So what did we say? We said $5 to $10 for your ribbon, $5 for your lining. So on the low end, that's 10. Another 15 for flowers. So it's like $25 on the low end for materials to decorate. And of course, these are all getting sewn on. No glue, people. Please do not glue your straw. Not only is it incorrect, glue is a nightmare to get out of straw. I've sat there and I've picked at it with needles and with my seam rippers just to try to get straw, glue out of straw. I've actually seen nice straw ruined because people have glued things on. Okay, they get sewn on, tacked on so that they can get changed. The really awesome thing about straw hats and bonnets is you can change them. All the little needle holes are really very forgiving. And you can take off the flowers or the feathers or the ribbons and put new ones on. It's lovely, so you can wear them for years and years. I'll come back to that. Alright, so where was I? We have the base hat. So you're talking like $125 for your base hat that took 10 or 11 hours to hand sew. And then you've got, on the low end, $25 of materials to go onto your hat. And the rest is decorating time and knowledge. In some cases, the materials, the decorating materials, are higher. And you'll notice that I rarely will fluctuate from the $200 price on a decorated piece. I was not going to put in numbers, and I just put in a number. I like people to be able to know what they need to save, and I don't want them to see an outlier and not know that, okay, I need to save this much money. I want people to be able to plan. So it's going to be unusual that I price outside of my norm. Okay. The differences in, like, again, 1820s, 1830s, really large pieces that'll affect a price. Your late Victorian pieces will affect a price because some of those are smaller or just different. Oh, something you do need to know if you are saving: tax and shipping. So most of the time shipping works out, I think I have $13 on most of them right now for the finished, depending on the state you're in. Some states are not charging tax, which is lovely for you, but some states are charging a tax that is higher than the shipping. So plan on like an extra $30 for your tax and your shipping. And I'm sorry, Miss Clara keeps moving the curtain. There is sun outside today. It's lovely. So that's that. So that kind of explains the cost of a hat. Now, in terms of a bonnet, there are similar things. There are things that cost more. It does take a little bit longer for me to sew a bonnet. Like I was saying, you're talking 12 to 15 hours of sewing and blocking. The blocks needed for that are original or custom. They're completely different than what's used for a hat. Can we close that a little bit? There. So 12 to 15 hours, a little more wire. That really doesn't add up. I'm actually looking at a piece over here. When you're talking decorating, all right, you are looking at silk for the bevelé, silk or ribbon for the bevelé, net for the bevelé. Bonnet needs to be lined. You are looking at net or lace for your frill or cap. That's going to be a couple yards of that. So let's see. If you calculate $5 to $10 for your frill, $5 for your lining, your bevelé. Oh boy. You're looking at more of like a yard of wider ribbon, which now is running closer to $15 a yard for a good ribbon. Lined is a few dollars. Okay, so then you need ribbons, and you're gonna need about 2 yards of 1 inch wide cotton sateen or silk for your ties. So you're gonna say $1.50, $2 to $6 for just your functional ties. Another 2 to 3 yards of fashion ribbon that's going to be, we're going to say $10 to $20 a yard. And then you're going to need your flowers and feathers and decorations. So that was a lot of numbers at you really quick. All right, 5, 10, 25, 30, 60, I'm going to say that it's going to run you $60 to $100 in materials just for the decorations. And of course, these are at retail prices. Some milliners are brilliant and have their own stashes and are able to do some better pricing. Huge kudos to them. I simply don't have the space, or I just don't have the space to do that. And decorating was never really the focus for me. The straw is the focus for me. So I'm hoping that that gives you an idea of the ballparks for why the pricing is what it is. Yes, it's a lot of money. Like I said yesterday, I understand it's a lot of money. But the reality is a good, well-made straw hat or straw bonnet will last you years if you take care of it. And I'm not talking a couple years. You could make a good hat or good bonnet in the reenacting or even living history, like at a museum world, last you a decade. So if you have a hat that you paid $125 or $200 for and you spread that out over a decade, $20 a year, I'm hoping is worth it for you. You just have to take care of it, which, yes, it means you're gonna need a good storage box for at home. You can buy a fancy hat box, or you can buy an inexpensive Sterilite box over at your Dollar General. I actually really do like the Sterilite boxes. They're lovely. You turn one upside down and put a base on it, and it's great for taking care of your bonnets. Another thing that I love, around Christmas time, there's some great storage boxes out there for gift giving. I really like what is available at like Dollar General on Tuesday morning. Some of those boxes have really great, hard, thick sides. They're not really cheaply done. And you can get those for not a lot of money. I know I get them for less than like $10 a piece, less than $5 a piece in a lot of times. And my local shop owners know that's what I like. And they'll let me know. I haven't bought any of them last year. I feel bad. I'm gonna have to go like make up for what I didn't buy. But those are good storage options. And then when you take them to events, kind of stay out of the rain. The rain's gonna do a doozy on your trims, especially if you have feathers or flowers that might not be as color fast. They can bleed. But again, the awesome thing about straw is you can kind of make up for that if you need to retrim or something. All right, so yep, that's it. That is kind of a quick 27-minute look at the costs of hats and bonnets. I hope that makes much more sense. Thank you for joining me for breakfast this morning. It's probably gonna be lunchtime by the time you actually see this. And again, I will see you on Wednesday. Bye all.